What's up, everybody? It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. Welcome back to Fandom Crew. This one, Fandom Crew episode number three. I believe from our side chat over the course of this week, we're pretty jazzed about this one.
I'm really enjoying the. Like, it's a romp and there's no stakes.
Yeah.
And there's zero to be mad at.
I have no fear for the children.
No.
And I don't want to. I don't want to.
Not really. I mean, there's like, I'm worried about certain things. I'm worried about KB's health. I'm worried about, Wim not destroying his entire future by, like little things I'm worried about. I don't think the stakes are so high. They're about as high as they were in Goonies. I'm sure by the end of it, we're going to be holding our breath in a few scenes going, whoa, they barely made it out of that, trap or what have you.
Right.
But you kind of knew that nobody was going to die in Goonies too.
Yeah, and I didn't really think that anybody, except maybe a Fratelli or two.
Maybe. Right. I mean, I don't think that we started killing main characters until well after 9/11, and we were all a jaded society.
Yeah.
Then you start getting into things like Invincible or The Boys, where there's just no character immunity. Just kill everybody.
Nobody is safe.
Willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Well, there was a moment in tonight's episode that I don't know if I would say it took me out of it, but I definitely saw a childlike innocence that I'd forgotten about.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. You want to save it until we're at that point?
We'll save it until we're organically there. But, speaking of stakes and consequences and whatever. And yeah.
I'm enjoying the show in the sense, and I mentioned this last week, and especially this week, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but like Skeleton Crew, and I get that, Skeleton Crew is the term that you use when you have like the minimum number of people you need to run a ship.
Yeah, like,
and in this case,
and everywhere now.
In this case, it's a starship, and nobody knows anything. But like, here's poor Jode, or maybe not so poor, but here's Jode trying to assign duties and tasks to these kids, and there's this whole range of like want and ability to do these tasks, where like you have the whole like Neil, all the way to
I'm the captain.
and then all the way to like shit-eating grin from Wim, who's like, oh yeah, let me at it.
That's literally in my notes. You could say that in the 80s. So that phrase is literally in my notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's check in with the chat here for a second. We've got Josh saying hello.
Hey, how's it going, Josh?
That's cool. Got my son this weekend. We are watching Ernest Saves Christmas.
That is a classic.
That's a good one.
That's an essential on the watch list for me.
That's a good one.
Yes, it is.
I hope you guys have a good time tonight. You can catch us in the replay. We'll see, and if not, we'll see you on Tuesday, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Brogu, how you doing, my friend? Nice to see you in tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for choosing to hang out with us on a Sunday night this far after the episode is already aired. Always nice to have you along. I guess before we get into the breakdown, we should probably open it with the traditional
bad Star Wars pirate jokes.
Oh, boy. So I don't know if I can handle this one. Guys, a pirate captain sees a New Republic frigate bearing down on them.
Oh,
crew, battle stations. Cabin boy, bring me my red shirt. I even wore it tonight. Wearing the red shirt, the captain leads the crew to victory. The cheerful pirates are sharing a spotchka after the evening to celebrate the success.
Ooh, spotchka.
And the captain explains his wardrobe change. He says, it's in case I took a blaster shot, the bloodstains wouldn't distract from our battle.
Oh, nice.
The crew toasts their brave captain and sings a shanty. A few hundred parsecs down, a Mon Cal heavy cruiser and a squadron of X-Wings jumps out of hyperspace right in their path. Battle stations, asks the first mate. Aye, says the captain, and bring me my brown pants.
The suit is red, so they don't see the blood.
He wore the brown pants.
He gets it. That's an extra one.
That's an extra
And just in case.
Find the controls that extend the bridge.
one. Right. Right.
Nice.
I am super excited for this episode for a couple of reasons. One, for the episode itself, but two, and this is something that our audience isn't necessarily privy to because we don't talk a whole lot about it, but we talk almost incessantly throughout the course of a week about these shows, sort of back and forth as we go about our days, as things kind of percolate in the back of the old brain pan. And Hank, you had said, because I had said last week after we shut down about sort of how we were going to handle this week, and it was like, so everybody has a voice.
Mhm.
I've led one, Andy's led one, and now here you are taking the lead on your first one. And you said it earlier this week about how we all focus in on different things, and it's just such a refreshing, like it's still fun to come together and do this.
Yeah. We I do love the way we approach it from different angles.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a similar perspective. It's some weeks it's really fun to do what we do, and this was one of those weeks.
Well, I'm excited because you're excited. Your excitement has got me like, yes, I'm ready. I want to do this.
Infectious.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is.
Okay,
Well, sir, if
what do you
you're
think?
ready, let's do it.
Skeleton Crew, guys, episode 3. Very interesting as an astrogation problem. Written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. Again, directed by David Lowery. Original air date December 10th, 24. Runtime is 39 minutes, 34 seconds without bookends, or actual runtime of 31:35, including a minute and 11 seconds of recap. Which, like, I'm wondering who they're aiming that at.
I feel like that's consistent though, like with
It's
our
probably
live action stuff.
consistent. Being that I don't time all the recaps, and when I do notice a full minute of recap, I'm like, wow. This week's episode description: a mysterious stranger appears to help our heroes, and I don't think they're talking about Jode.
No,
No, sir.
that's an interesting take.
Mhm.
Okay. Open on an establishing shot of the city on At-Atten. The gentle glow of the dawn bathes the city in a warm yellow light. We see a large concrete structure in the center of the city, and I wonder if this isn't the office of our supervisor might be. There's a geodesic dome in the foreground, and we see the CN Space Needle, for lack of a better term, toward the horizon. And if you look really hard, you can see a few more towers way back up on the rolling hills. And I wonder, are these other cities or maybe communication towers, part of a relay system like we'd have on Earth?
Well, are they part of, what about the barrier? I mean, like, I know we're going to get more on that later on in the show, but do you think that these, like, I have no doubt in my
Oh,
mind that
well,
there
that's
is
a-
a communications purpose, but
Like-
communicating with satellites would also be appropriate.
I mean, we saw back in the Phantom Menace, right, where the Gungans had to literally set up their posts to build
That's
their
true.
barrier, right?
Absolutely. They
That's
did, yeah.
that's really true.
So you
where,
would need something a whole lot bigger for an entire planet.
where it emanates from that sort of.
I mean, that's an interesting take, Andy. In the Phantom Menace, they did do that, and we got a visual representation as the domes.
Materialized.
But in Return of the Jedi, we projected an entire shield around a moon, and we didn't really get a visual.
No, all we got
for
was
that.
like the little, data pad readout.
The dot, the 16-bit
Right.
dot,
Yeah.
sort of.
and you knew
look.
if you were going to crash into it physically. I mean, something similar to Rogue One, where you had that shield
Oh
over the
yeah,
whole planet except
yeah.
the portal, and only the portable was the visible sort of part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We pull in closer to the city. The sharp contrast of morning sun on the cold white concrete, as a safety droid makes its way on a solitary patrol. Now we find ourselves on the familiar street from Episode 1, a residential neighborhood stepped right out of a Steven Spielberg classic. Inside, the parents of our party gather to discuss the dire situation. We focus on Wendell, Wim's father. He's beyond distraught, nearly non-responsive, the helplessness of the situation etched on his face. He's barely able to take a cup of tea from Neil's mom, Nuna, and she lays a consoling hand on his shoulder. Fern's mother, Farah, furrows her brow and rubs her temples, telling the group that aloud that a security guard will find the kids, and I feel like she's telling herself more than she's telling them. I find it interesting that she barely makes eye contact with the rest of the group. Even the way it's shot, often the entire group of parents are in one frame, and Farah is alone by herself out of frame.
Well, they're all in their own like sort of state of mind, like, and I can only imagine what each parent is sort of think.
Mhm.
I know KB's parents are maybe a little bit more vocal in one sense, but then so is Wendell in another sense. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. We finally meet KB's parents, who are frustrated that this keeps going in circles, worried that they've lost the signal to KB's life monitor. And at first, I got the impression this was because she might have some type of illness, but I wonder if it's not just a level of dystopian control again. But I feel like it's the former because it's not mentioned that the other children have one. Fern does try to console the group, saying when she was young, she would run off, and the security guards would always bring her home. Just then, a security guard enters through the sliding door, and the parents all stand in anticipation of the news. And I have to mention, I like the way that the security guard seems to literally have a security camera for a head.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. And now I think we should address the elephant in the room, and I don't mean Nuna.
The skibbity resemblance.
Ah, whoa, I went too far.
Uh-oh.
There it is. The mural on the wall. It's what I'm assuming it's Neil's home because she's the one serving the warm drinks, but I could be wrong. On fluffy white and gold clouds, 4 individuals gather around a central figure, a woman with ornate brown hair and flowing white gown, arms raised in a greeting or perhaps worshiping celebration. In the background, there's an unfamiliar symbol ringed in concentric circles with symmetrical lines radiating from it. On the left, a dark-skinned male holds the edge of a black vest, looking directly at the woman. A green-skinned member of what I assume to be as the yet unnamed species that Neil and his family hail, and a seated Athorian back to back with another brown-haired male clad in close-fitting black clothing. I get strong original trilogy iconography here. I know Han Solo doesn't have a copyright on black vests, but the central woman
However,
leans so heavily into Leia at the medal ceremony, and the seated man, I had to crop a guy in to get his whole thing. It just screams Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. It's not even funny.
yeah, kind of, eh?
And it's understatedly, to me, it's reminiscent of the Mortis Gods mural. And I know you were saying it's very sort of similar to
It gives me the
the
Rebels
Rebels
mural
murals.
vibe
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah. The symbol, that's the same as Fern's school patch.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that
Yeah,
a
okay,
little bit of
okay.
detail later, but yeah.
Kind of like an upside down flux capacitor.
I think Wim's father is not letting on to what he knows. Call me crazy, but I believe he's a pirate and that his ship and that it's his ship that his son found. Remember, he went to the ship when
Oh,
looking for his son. That's a really good point,
Yeah, Bro
actually.
Grew.
I
That
never
is-
really thought about why
that
he
is
would
probably
be there.
the most interesting thing I've heard all week. To be honest,
That's pretty great, actually. Good.
you
on
think
you,
he's following the breadcrumb of the helmet, and
man. It's yeah, that's pretty funny.
if that's the case, I mean, I got the impression from this, and like going back to that sort of each parent is in their own headspace, and it's like, you know, we had just the briefest of sort of moments about mom, when Wim said, "Read me a story like mom used to," and dad immediately goes into this like, "Aren't you a little old for that?"
Right.
It almost, I feel like in this scene, not only is he afraid for his son, but that's a moment for him to reflect on the loss of his wife. And I feel like he's still mourning on some level.
Right. He's turned it into work, which is
Yeah,
a thing
yeah.
people do for sure. Sort of shutting his emotions off. The security droid tells the worried parents that he's been sent by the supervisor. He informs them coldly, "Your children are on a starship that has illegally exited the barrier." The group lets out a shocked gasp, but Wendell asks logically, "Is the supervisor going to contact the Republic for help?" To which the droid replies that no, citing that the supervisor is unwilling to risk any contact because the ship is beyond the barrier. It's interesting the use of the word risk here. I'm only assuming at this point, but the picture is becoming a little clearer, that the risk involved is multifaceted. On one hand, the Republic has fallen and risen again, apparently with this planet's whereabouts and significant loss to the galactic powers. Also, the risk of exposing the denizens of Adat to the truth, whatever form that takes. Are they protecting the planet from the outside galaxy, or are they hiding a conspiracy from their own people? Or is it both? It's pretty cool. It's actually cool.
I'm still expecting by the time we get to the supervisor, because supervisor just seems like such a perfunctory title.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel it's going to be another droid.
Yeah, it's not like it's Chancellor Valorum or
No, it's not
Emperor
governor.
Palpatine or any
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
Tarkin.
President or, you
Yeah.
know, any of those other political
The
terms.
central scrutinizer.
Yeah.
It's the MCP, the Master Control Program's there right now.
We finally get to meet KB's parents, though briefly. Marie, played by Cassie Bugay, I hope I'm saying that right. Character actor with several single TV appearances in shows such as Night Sky, Disjointed, and For All Mankind.
Oh, great show.
Oh, cool. I'm not familiar with any of her work.
Love For
And,
All Mankind.
And Gary, I guess it's Mary and Gary. That's kind of funny to me. Is played by M.G. Kang, known predominantly as the first Korean Canadian playwright to be produced professionally in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
But she's appeared in several films, including Politically Correct Party Animals and Pathology. So, welcome to Star Wars, ladies.
Yeah.
This decision by the secretary is met with outrage from KB's parents, Marie raising her voice. Damn the risks. These are our kids. And in near tears, Gary begs, our daughter has a very urgent medical need. One mystery solved about KB. I was just asking that, and it answered itself.
That's
but another
funny,
one is afoot.
I don't remember them saying that.
What kind of medical needs?
Yeah.
And do they involve her Echo-style prosthetic?
Mm-hmm.
Farrah tells the droid that the group that she's submitting a petition for an immediate audience with the supervisor, understanding how the machine works. The droid tells them all to remain calm as Wendell sinks back into the sofa, removing his glasses, dejected, also knowing full well how the bureaucracy works. You could see he's like, there's nothing we can do almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the background, almost as white noise, the other parents yell over the droid, who reminds them, contact outside the barrier is forbidden. Travel outside the barrier is forbidden. Any violation of planet-wide protocols will result in security action. Cut to our title card.
Like that language is, I get it that, you know, the droid is just, you know, reacting to its programming, but it almost just, it sounds
threatening.
It's kind of totalitarian, kind of
authoritarian.
Yeah, authoritarian is a good one. Yeah.
Orwellian. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Camera sliding past. Oh, where did we go? We didn't change slides. That's why.
There we go.
There you go.
Loving this stuff. Camera sliding past the bustling ferry dock, we see it brimming with the thriving underworld life. If Mos Eisley's was an unprecedented hive of scum and villainy, I don't know how to categorize this. Other than the fact that I love this aesthetic, and it won't be the only time this episode where I gush over the visuals. We dip below a blue ray shield to a rocky foundation where several concentric rectangular windows have been carved out, spilling out dank orange glow. I really like the idea this place is built on a pre-existing physical foundation, perhaps an asteroid or small irregular moon. It's not lost to me that it's more pirate-style sea iconography, and it looks like it could be made of coral.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Shallow water, coral reef. God, it just looks so good.
And now I want to see Star Wars Moby Dick. Like Starship Pequod, a Quarren Ishmael, and hunting a great white purgle.
A big giant purgle.
Man, I'm all over it. This must be the detention level. And as we cut inside, the lighting is very reminiscent of the detention levels in Jabba's palace. It really does have that hut aesthetic to go along with that tattoo station.
Yeah.
Further to this end, in a direct callback to Return of the Jedi, a tentacle reaches out from behind a set of metal bars, only to be met by a patrolling guard with an electroshock prod. We see a large creature from whence the tentacle originated. And while I know this is a kid's show, I wonder what type of body part that is, considering we can see both his hands holding the door.
I was going to bring that up. Like, first, I had to watch it a couple times to determine, was the tentacle off the same creature? And in some ways, and I know, like, to make a bigger connection to the Jabba thing, remember when they introduced the Yuzum as part of the song on the I got the Yuzum vibe when this thing was
that's true.
The shock
that's
prod.
Funny as hell. Yeah. Now they're actually shocking a bunch of prisoners. It's like
yeah.
And my thing is like, step back from the bars.
Yeah.
I'm curious though if this tentacle creature is the same species of the one we saw in the Acolyte. You remember when the prison ship was? There was one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A head
That's right.
tentacle, right?
Yeah.
Wipe that from my mind. That's the cloaked man
will
and the
not
kids.
remember this.
The cloaked man and the kids, except KB, cross a dim hallway. She's nervous, but Fern stops to encourage her to keep moving. Moving to the rear, the mysterious benefactor looks down the hall where several guards are now shocking prisoners in their cells. He closes his eyes and makes a hand gesture, almost throwing something toward the guards. A racket behind the guards draws their attention, allowing KB to bridge the distance to her comrades, and we realize that Joe's just used a force ability. And then I sort of cut and pasted what the discussion that you and I had,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just to paraphrase that you had sort of maybe two possibilities, and this is kind of what we were saying
Well,
to one
this is a
another.
question that's come up, like, not just in this show, but like
Right.
this is one of those, like, let's talk about the nature of the force.
And it's not so cut and dry in the role playing games, which you thought
No,
it
it's
might
not.
be,
It's
right?
not. Yeah.
So, is it a form of telekinesis that affects a physical object, or is it more inclined? Is it more likely that it's a form of telepathy or mind trick variation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I think you're more inclined to think that it's a mind trick, and
I
I think
am.
I'm more inclined to think it's telekinesis.
The only reason, and this is when I get into that the technical side of things, and the reason I lean into telepathy is Star Wars as a visual medium likes to show us when physical objects are being
That's a really good
are,
point.
are being affected by the
Mhm.
force. So the fact that we as the audience don't see the rock, the pebble,
Mm.
the object that ding ding makes the noise, but the flip
So,
side of that is we hear the noise too. So
right,
is that for our benefit as the audience? Because
we
that's where I
do
go
also hear
back
the force cue too.
always. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Which, like, if you go back and you watch the Obi-Wan thing, we don't get a force cue when the fake Jedi is faking the force. And
No,
it
we
really
don't.
didn't
No,
occur to
no.
me. But I also went back and watched Obi-Wan use the same trick.
Yeah,
And it's a very different sound. This is more like a clattering of physical objects falling
yeah, yeah.
over. And Obi-Wan's is more like an ethereal click click, you know.
It's always contextual though. Like Ben Kenobi, old Ben is the first person we ever see do this
Right.
when he does it on the Death Star, and even that noise was different. It was like this echoey ka-tong
Right,
off in
right.
the distance.
That's what I mean. Exactly.
Mm.
I'm wondering if it's also could be just based on skill level. Like we assume Obi-Wan is a master, and if
Mm-hmm.
anything, this guy is a neophyte. Although certain things in this episode begin to point differently.
This is something, and I thought about this. We could get a better answer if we saw it from the perspective of the prisoners, because if the prisoners reacted to it,
Yeah, that's true.
then we would know that no, they actually hear it.
Yeah.
It's not just the guards. But I've
Yeah.
always like, and maybe this is maybe I'm influenced by my years as a tabletop role playing game player. But I've always said, like in Star Wars, like just because we see Force users, Jedi and whatnot, waving their hands,
Yeah.
I've always said, well, that's because Star Wars again is a visual medium, so that's for us. That's
Right.
for us to like to know that they're using their power. But like
Yeah.
we've also seen examples where Force users, they just will something to happen and it does, and nobody's the wiser for it.
It's true.
So just because they do doesn't mean they have to.
And
Right.
And that's
like-
why I question if us hearing the audio cue is putting us in the perspective of the two guards. We hear it in our minds the same way that they do.
That goes right back to Empire, though, doesn't it? Like when Yoda just kind of closed his eyes and visualized the X-wing coming out.
He did raise a hand for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's pulling it out.
Yeah.
As they continue along, Wim asks, how do you do that? To which the elder replies, practice. Let's get to your ship. Fern stops him in his tracks, telling the man flatly, we never agreed to give you a ride. But Wim protests that he's been helping them. Clever KB wonders if the Jedi could escape at any time. Why did he need their help?
I think we all did.
Yeah.
We all wondered that.
Because he didn't have a ship to go on.
He proceeds to ask him, what's the use in escaping without a ship? And then a very Jedi-like indeed, I waited and the Force provided.
I did like that line.
Yeah.
I think we should take a second here and check on the comment here.
Oh, yeah.
This is an interesting one.
Where you had to.
I think he has always been force sensitive and has learned some tricks along the way. And I doubt seriously that he has been trained. Natural talent. That's something that Star Wars has started to dip into, like that anybody can use the force.
Well, I wonder that about KB as well. When she was reluctant to go across, did she sense the guys coming?
I think that that's more related to her augmentation because it was a droid that buzzed by.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely have something about that coming up. But I think, like there are some things like floating a key over.
Yeah.
Even without ever having heard about the Force or, like if you heard rumors, it's something that you could almost like try. Like the three of us have, I guarantee you guys have, because I have tried to
Mallrats.
move something,
Buddy, every time
right?
I go to Walmart,
Right. And you open the door.
Mallrats with Kevin Smith sitting there
But
trying
I
to move the
feel like,
cigarette, right?
and there's a few other ones that are coming up too, but I feel like throwing the audio cue or
Mhm.
whatever, however we want to define it,
yeah,
is a bit advanced for somebody who's just dabbling
a
or learned a
dabbler.
few
Yeah,
tricks. That seems almost like these aren't the droids you're looking for level type stuff.
maybe.
Um,
But I'm definitely convinced. I know the kids had that discussion on the Onyx Cinder in the cockpit about Fern rhymes off a bunch of ways that somebody could levitate something. Well,
Yeah.
Jode's in prison, so it's definitely not like in my mind. It is definitely not some kind of miniaturized tractor beam or
no,
magnets or anything like.
For sure.
I do believe that's force ability.
Yes. Yeah. Well, or otherwise they probably wouldn't play the musical cue.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Coming upon the what's that?
We did not. I failed to see that Zazel checked in. Good morning, fellas.
Zazel!
What's up, my friend?
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you. Hope you're having a wonderful morning.
Coming upon the blah 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 blah. Coming upon the blue glow of a ray shielded door in the hallway, Jode sets about bypassing it with the controls on the wall beside it. Fern makes it known that there is no treasure on the planet, if that's what he's after. Pulling a lever, the ray shield switches from blue to red, presumably the difference between stun and kill if you were to attempt to use it. Frustrated, he tells the kids that that's not what he's after. Wynn heartily agrees. Yeah, because he's a Jedi. And the presumed Jedi begins to rip conduit from the panel in an attempt to hotwire the door. Fern states they have no idea who he is, but Wynn is adamant. Yes, he is a Jedi. Continuing to twist the wires and crude splices as quick as he can, he introduces himself. My name is Jod Nana Wood, and you are? The boys both blurt their answers loudly. Neil, Wim, the later boy thrusting out his arm in a handshake gesture. Jod Nana Wood smiles as he looks at the group. Now we know each other. And with that, Jode pushes the button and the ray shield drops, the timing a punctuation on his Jedi-ness. Usher.
That came up in another movie about like sharing names, and the line from the one character is "We are no longer strangers," and I just felt like, oh, that is so. It does kind of have warrior monk kind of
a little bit
trappings to it, yeah.
But it also has the little back end of, and now here's some candy.
And on the flip side to that, like, Georgie didn't know Pennywise, and Pennywise introduced himself. Now we know each other.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you got to be on like, come on into my place with vampires terms, so.
Yeah.
Ushering the group forward, Jode stops them abruptly with an upraised hand hugging the cavern wall. First, an armed guard herding a limping prisoner forward crosses ahead of them. Wim whispers to Neil, barely able to contain his excitement. He could sense that somebody was coming around the corner. You know much of the Force, perhaps as most Jedi Jode has been yet. And as they are about to proceed, the man shouts, "Hold!" And moving in the opposite direction, another guard, pushing a repulsor lift cart, trudges along heavily. Telling the kids to wait, the man rushes off down the hall in the direction of the repulsor lift guard. Alone, the kids discuss the evolving situation. Fern reminds them that 33 said to trust no one. This guy was in jail. And I was kind of waiting for this to see how they were going to colloquialize his name. And so I'm going to refer to him as 33.
As 33. Yeah, that's what that seems to be what they've landed on.
Yeah.
Force
me. Wim reminds the group that they were in jail too, and Neil offers that he's got magic powers. Vern's not sure that's a reason to trust him, but Wynn likes to quote from a story pad. Jedi are the defender of justice, and first of all, Jedis.
Oh yeah, Jedis.
It's the smallest thing for me, but
yeah.
it's so awesome. Jedis are the defenders of justice and the keepers of peace in the galaxy.
Yeah,
everybody knows that. The sound of a small scuffle breaks the tension as a loud grunt and a crack is followed by a guard's helmet bouncing across the floor from the direction Nana Wood went. It's a funny beat juxtaposed against the keepers of peace spiel. Jode emerges in the hall, throwing his cloak over his shoulder like Clint Eastwood, and tucks the commandeered blaster into his belt. He tells the group that there are many living beings one way, and the opposite way is empty. The answer is simple. To Fern, the empty way. But the Jedi posits that it's easier to hide in a crowd than in an empty corridor. But KB stops the party with an abrupt, "Wait, hold." Everyone grabs cover against the wall. Jode holds his blaster up in the ready position. Just as a small probe droid with yellow and black color scheme, complete with the familiar audio cues from Han and Chewie's encounter on Hoth, floats by them, just up ahead. Super reminiscent for me of the DRK-1, but you were saying it's actually the probe droid.
The interrogator
Maybe
droid,
just scaled
yeah.
down, the interrogator droid. Riley, Fern digs at Jode. So I guess KB's got the Force too, but Jode is quick with a comeback. The Force flows through us all. Just want to touch on Jode's stolen blaster. I got a decent shot of it here. I thought it might be a modified DH-17. Wes, you pointed out. Actually, Wes had nothing to do with this. It was all me. You guys might not know this, but Wes doesn't know a lot about Star Wars, especially about weapons and ships. So you pointed out that this might have been built off not that because the DH-17 is built off Sterling submachine guns. Maybe
Yeah,
we're
both
looking at
that
the
and the E11 are both Sterling
Right.
subs. Yeah.
So this is an RO-72 bullseye air pistol that you found me a picture of.
Yep.
And that looks a lot like a modified DL-18, staying in more line with Scum and Villainy models.
Yep.
And maybe even echoing a Jedi's commandeered pistol in Return of the Jedi.
I would go so far as to say, and we've seen this in more recent Star Wars productions, that they've gotten away from using real weapons because they're expensive. But they
And
definitely
you can't hire Alec Baldwin.
They have definitely taken to using resin castings or 3D printed firearms. And definitely, I would say that this could very much have been a casting or a 3D print of
Right.
the RO-72 pistol.
Yeah, that's right.
And then greebly'd all up. But you can see some of like the angular, like where the barrel comes out of the upper receiver. Like it's got that same angle. And I
Yes.
kind of feel like this might be our base
Yeah.
firearm.
Yeah, it's not so bad. It's good eye on me.
But it's very Star Warsian though,
It is
because
very.
I mean, that's the same the
If you were
RO.
to like, I'm just gonna go back. If you
No,
were
go
to
for it,
pack
go for it.
that air gun in a holster, dressed up like Luke from Return of the Jedi, not a single person would bat an eye.
I mean, like just to remind our audience who may not have known this, like the RO-72, that front sight, all they did for Return of the Jedi was loosen that off and turn it upside down to put it on the bottom of the barrel. And that
Right.
is the the DL-18
DL-18.
that Luke in Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
100%.
Yep. No greebles added.
Topside, in the bustling port proper, several men lounge in low chairs inhaling vapor through red mask respirators. I'm betting it's spice of some kind. Yellow-eyed Jawas peer on, chittering over patinaed metal mugs of Jawa juice or something harder. I guess dispelling the myth that all off-world Jawas have red eyes.
That threw me for a loop.
Yeah. Emerging from the shadows, Joe dons his hood and beckons the kids quietly. Come on. Shuttled by a crowd of an open-air cantina, the kids pass by a brawl as a brawl breaks out among a couple of the alien patrons. Curiosity gets the best of Neil as he stops to watch. Jode appears from the crowd to corral him up before he's separated from the group. And as the camera pulls back, we get a wide shot of the busy port, transitioning to the ferry headed to the ship mooring area. And I love this aesthetic like a lot. Like
I do too.
I would like to spend a lot of time at this port, or
I did wonder if the two guys fighting were the same two guys that were fighting on the way in.
that felt very, actually.
You guys are still at it? Holy crap.
No, they calm down and then they're back at it.
Yeah, it's a new one now.
So I have a couple of times where I do a slide interlude because it'll make sense in a second. So we're in the middle of slide 9, interlude, slide 10. Now, Wes, I know you don't know a lot about Star Wars ships.
I am not a ship nerd at all.
Really. So I had to ask somebody else.
You better break this down for us.
Well, thanks to Wes for all the legwork here. In fact, I think you had these slides made before the episode even aired.
Definitely within the first 24 hours.
Looks like we got a couple of Pelta-class frigates. Pelta-class, manufactured by Kiewit Drive Yards, are the staple of the Republic during the Clone Wars, serving as strike frigates, medical frigates, and transport ships. Later modified by the Rebel Alliance against the Galactic Empire during the Civil War, Pelta-class vessels would be used as med centers and command ships, Phoenix Home being the most famous, which fell at the Siege of Lothal to Darth Vader himself.
Not to be outdone by the Pelta-class frigate that serves as a mobile Jedi temple crewed by Keller and Beck.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot. That's correct. That's right. We also get a Star Speeder 1000 from the Disney World Star Tours attraction.
Nice.
And maybe coolest of all, the ZH-40 Tribune class light freighter, possibly the Katuni, the very vessel belonging to self-proclaimed king of the pirates and fan favorite Hondo Ohnaka.
It's
And
your old pal Hondo.
I don't know if you could turn this show any better.
Yeah.
But that would be the switch to turn it. Like, it would go from so good to so great instantly. You know, you know what? Strike that. Hondo might distract from what's going on right now.
They've done this to us before. They dropped in one of the bounty hunter, like one of the Empire bounty hunter ships in the Mandalorian, and didn't say anything about it. So I'm hesitant to say it's Hondo's ship.
Right.
I am more than confident to say this is the class of ship and leave it at that.
That's the kind of thing I might save for a live action movie to make people crawl out of their skins in a group.
You know, that would make for a pretty cool flashback in the movie, and say, like, we get this scene again from Hondo's perspective as we see the ship later on get tumbled in the fray.
That's true. Yeah.
We might be interesting.
Back to slide 9. Byrne is skeptical as always. That was too easy. Mirroring Leia's line after the escape from the Death Star in A New Hope, Jode quips that you're welcome, placing his blaster on the seat and moving to the front viewport. Wild-eyed, almost maniacal. He's got a crazy look in his eyes there. Which of these ships is yours? Neil's eyes grow wide himself as he stares down at the blaster sitting beside him. Excitedly, he picks it up, turning it over in his hand for a second before putting it down hurriedly. Fern tells Jode that Wim is afraid to tell him that their ship is a wreck because he's embarrassed. KB says technically it shouldn't fly. Neil also notes that it smells funny. Jode thinks nothing can smell as bad as their cell back at Port Borgo, but as the ship comes into view, his eyes widen in disbelief. Wait, not that.
They might as well name the thing Pigpen with the cloud
I've
that
been
comes
really
off.
careful, and I have to reference it because I have to come up with different ways to say the ship.
Yeah.
Because they haven't named it except Lego yet. And I
Right.
want to honor that because there might be some kind of reveal.
Oh, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. It could be.
On board their wreck, Jode punches a series of controls amid the beeping and whistling noises and flashing console lights. Still skeptical, that should be her last name, Fern keeps a keen eye on the would-be Jedi, who assures them that he's got an old friend in mind, an expert in star maps, lost planets. If anyone can find their home, it's her. But Neil remembers their other crew member. What about SM-33? They explain he's their droid and he knows how to fly and fix the ship. Unconcerned, Jode says they'll be fine without him, but the kids won't back down. Fern says if the Jedi, who's not supposed to leave anyone behind, won't go, she'll go herself. Almost losing his cool for the first time, Jode corrects her. First, it's a droid, and second, that's not a Jedi thing that Jedi say. But all the kids are with Fern. Wim tells Jode he could do it, though. Fern agrees if he's a Jedi like he says, and she asks him directly, and he responds, of course. And I want you guys to remember that, of course, because there's a line later where he blatantly lies. Of course, I'll do it. You stay here.
It's almost, of course, as he's doing, like, of course, through gritted teeth,
right?
like Thor in at the end of Endgame. Of course, of course.
Yes, you're the captain. Of course.
Yeah, that's the one.
Of course, I'll do it. You stay here, where it's safe. Voice dripping with sarcasm. Wim hands him his blaster, and he checks the droid's name, guessing at S-37 something. Neil adds, don't forget about the rat that lives in his eye hole. Turning to leave, Jode implores the kids not to touch anything, telling them you don't want to blast off accidentally before he gets back. which with that he takes his leave to retrieve the droid. Fern offers coldly, "We should blast off before he gets back." Now completely turned around on the 33 situation, seemingly. Wim can't believe her nerve.
It's almost like a challenge for Wim, though. Don't touch anything.
I
Challenge
found,
accepted.
Yeah.
I really find the comedic beats and the timing and the kids, like, it's really good.
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah.
Nothing is felt forced to me. Like, I don't know
No,
if they're
me
whipping
neither.
them, telling them their dogs are going to die if they don't do a good job. Whatever it is, they're doing an excellent job. And the comedy, like, that's my biggest problem with a lot of the Star Wars and especially a lot of the Marvel stuff, is it feels so labored. And this feels really natural. In fact, coming up is probably my second favorite Star Wars comedy line of all time. Coming up in this episode. Uh-oh.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Uh-oh. My dang cat just ripped open my son's presents under the tree. No longer a surprise.
Time to wrap that cat out. Bethany.
Also, he's getting a new cat for Christmas. Back at the crowded port, Jode Nanawood slinks through the crowd, hood up. But there's a hullabaloo afoot. A large man with a heavily scarred face screams over the crowd. Silvo! I autocorrected to Silvio. Silvo has escaped from the brig. Official business of Captain Brutus. He begins shaking individuals down. YouTube? You there. Seen anything suspicious, have you? Search every stall. Search every booth. This guy's name is Beef, and we know that because of the subtitles, which help a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in Star Wars. You don't figure out what their name is until you get the action figure. This guy's looking like a Dr. Azeban, like they.
I wanted to know
heavy.
why did they give him Dr. Evezen's face?
I thought it might have been him.
Yeah,
he has a canon death.
He should be dead by this point.
Yeah, I believe.
But maybe he's not human.
Death.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe
But
he's just another species, right?
It's really likely that they found that in a drawer and went, slap it on me.
I mean,
pretty cool though.
If you want to get into the Evazan thing, like he was known to be like a medical doctor who operated on himself, and that's
Right.
how he ended up looking that way.
Right.
Like,
so maybe this guy went to his clinic.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, or that could be like that species version of a hair lip. So all the
maybe
surgeries are similar. I don't.
Yeah, maybe.
Search every stall, search every booth. Beef, played by Dominic Burgess, who's got 92 acting credits under his belt, including Rebel Moon, Palm Royale, and joining the elite, the precious and exciting few that have roles in both Star Wars universes. He played Mr. Yup in an episode of Picard.
Oh, wow.
So nice. He joins the clique there. Hurriedly, Jode makes his way to a secluded alcove filled with all manner of deactivated droids. And it occurs to me, of course, that he knows where the droids are kept, presumably because this was once his territory when he was captain.
Probably.
Drawing down his hoodie, approaches a white CZ secretary comm droid laying prone and flips its power on. In a nasally voice, the droid greets him. Hello, I am CZ D2-9000, but Joe abruptly switches him off, causing him to trail off and fall back to the table. Switching on a second droid who is standing across from the first, the droid appearing to be an RA-7 protocol droid, although we never see him from the front, snaps to life with urgency. The prince is in danger. Quickly, I have to save the prince. We must go this way. I can't see. And Joe just allows him to walk off. Spotting a B-1 battle droid sitting on another bench, he flips the power on it. It snaps to life for a second. Did we win? Before collapsing sideways.
I love that line.
I know, it's really good.
Yeah.
Its head falling off before shutting itself down. If Jode was a Jedi, he's certainly the right age to have been a Padawan during the Clone Wars. But with no trepidation with respect to this battle droid specifically, it likely points to him having actually no Jedi connections, I think. At least not a connection to the war. He does exclaim, however, after that happens, damn droids, so it's kind of still up in the air. He finally comes upon one last droid suspended in a mess of rusty chains. We know it's our boy 33. Jode flips a switch on the droid's neck and he powers up, his singular eye glowing white. What do you want? SM-33, Jode inquires. Might be. Depends who's asking. The little rat creature pops out of his eye socket, squeaking, and Joe takes that as a yes,
Good enough
switching
for
him back
me.
off.
Pew!
Searching about, Joe finds a cart on wheels and begins to try to hoist 33 on it by his legs. And we are treated to the reality of how heavy droids actually are as he struggles with a single limb. You never really think about that.
Droids are
Droids
heavy.
are heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, gotta run, fellas. There's a Christmas thing at church, and then I gotta go take the boy to his mom's. Later, everyone. Thanks, Josh.
Have a good night, Josh.
Have a good
Safe
night.
travels.
Watch us in the rewind, baby. Almost loaded and ready to leave, a lone figure steps into the light from the end of the corridor. Captain Silbo, is that you? An Ishi Tib with a thick Cockney accent is surprised to see his former captain, drawing his blaster, but then sheathing it upon seeing who belonged to the voice, I think no longer perceiving a threat. Benjar Pranic, you old blood. Pranic chuckles at the situation. Brutus let you out, did he? He beckons the man to come sit with your old crewmate and have some tea and tell me your troubles. But Sybil informs us that he's in a hurry and boring a droid to boot. Struggling to drag the dead weight down the hall with any efficacy. Always a fire in your belly and a mad scheme in your heart, he tells Jode. Brutus isn't half the captain Silbo was. You're the best skipper I ever had. But the old sod has a bit of time to think now, wondering aloud, why is it he decided to let you go right before your trial? But the former captain is honest. I let myself out. He says he might have finally found the big score he's always been talking of. Pranic finds that interesting, asking if it might have something to do with the children what showed up, going on about their pockets full of sparkling dataries, using the same pronunciation as Wim did in the previous episode.
Dataries?
Dataries, yep.
Yeah.
Silbo requests of him, you can't tell a soul you saw me. There's a good tib. But the aged pirate is still sharp enough to respond quickly, well, that's the real trick, isn't it? Echoing Han Solo in the Mos Eisley's cantina when asked about impending Imperial entanglement. And then drawing up his blaster, he admits, I would be remiss if I didn't report to Captain Brutus, telling the man almost past him now that let's call the guards and have a little chat. Back in the cockpit of the ship, the heroes have a classic children's argument. Yes, he is, insists Wim. No, he isn't, insists Fern. Is so. Is not. He floats stuff, Wim offers, hoping to end the debate. But Fern is adamant that there are millions of ways to make it look like something's floating. Neil sits there trying to float a rod from his hand, but it just drops to the deck. Wim demands, name one. Fern rattles off 4 in quick succession. Repulsor lift, tractor beam, magnets, string, like really thin string. She certainly just wants to, she certainly just is sure that he just wants to steal the treasure. Despite Wim's insistence that there is no treasure, she logically knows that he doesn't know that. The kids then vote to see if he can stay. The boys vote yes, the girls vote no, but citing the tie goes to the captain, Fern claims victory. Something through the canopy catches Neil's eye, and he notices several ferries darting about in the distance. Approaching them, blaster fire erupting around the lead ferry. It's Jode. He's boosted one, and he's trying to flee back to the ship, pursued by several other ferry pods, with riders in spacesuits free-riding the wings, firing hand blasters at the fleeing former prisoner. That's awesome looking. I don't know about you guys.
It's literally
That
like,
is awesome looking.
like skiffs rowing out to their ships, right?
Such cool aesthetic. Jode's pod is rammed by another, and it sends him flying back from the helm. He quickly gathers himself and grabs the controls, managing to bring the pod to bear upon the ship's airlock. Dragging the enormous droid, Jode screams to the kids, let's go! Hit the throttle! As the engines roar to life in a golden yellow, Jode arrives in the cockpit, kicking Wim from the pilot seat as he takes control of the ship. And with the Han Solo legacy line, Jode exclaims confidently, watch this! But a tether attached to a central float spear draws taut, keeping them from fleeing. Several other ships can be also seen attached to tethers from the spire. At the same time, ships can be seen attached to similarly different spires throughout. Jode remarks that they're stuck on a fuel line and accelerates in an attempt to snap the line. It's to no avail, and the kids are jostled around the cockpit. Remarking at the quality of said fuel line, Jode brings the ship into contact with the nearest vessel, scraping hull off hull, hoping to shear the lines in connection. Also failing to work, The ship begins to pivot around its moored axis, crashing into several ferry pods, sending their occupants careening. On the landing pad of the port, Brutus storms forward as the pirates run about in the confusion and chaos. Noticing Scylla was trapped in the line, he orders that his men arm the cannon on the double. A huge rotunda turret with a long barrel swivels into firing position, very reminiscent of the Separatist era heavy weaponry. Like,
Yeah.
that thing looks like a droid cannon to me.
It does.
Yeah. Wheeling around the anchor point, Nanawwood looks for an opening, and when he finds it, he throttles way up, beginning to drag the fueling spire and several ships with him. Unmanned ships crashing and banging into one another with creaks and groans, reminiscent of old submarine movies. Two ships make heavy contact and explosions rock both. Close up of Brutus looking on furiously, he growls under his breath. The cannon comes around now, aims straight at the hero vessel. Neil spots this and asks the Neo Jedi, "Sir, should we be worried about those?" Jode, his mind racing for a solution, blurts out his answer: hyperdrive, instructing Wim to take the helm. He jumps up and moves away to the nav computer. Hurriedly, he punches in a series of buttons, presumably the coordinates to his friends from earlier. KB protests, wondering if isn't it dangerous to go to hyperspace if you're tied to something? But he doesn't acknowledge her. Moving back to the helm, he drives the hyperspace switch forward without hesitation. The ship lurches, spooling its hyperdrive, and just as the cannon looses its first volley, the prisoners and the ship jump out of sight at light speed in a cloud of dust.
Again with the dust, eh?
Yeah, it's so good. It happens like twice in this episode. I think it's their thing for sure. Every action has a reaction, however, and the taut fuel line bounces back, its tension removed, as it tears through the landing pad, crushing men and equipment alike. A large tower falls over in front of Brutus as he glowers on, channeling Lieutenant Bill Kilgore from Apocalypse Now, as he doesn't so much even flinch. Gunter asks if he should pursue them, but growling and shoving the subordinate, he wants a bounty on his head, insisting that he be brought groveling at his feet, and those pups.
All appropriate for a wolfman.
Yeah, right.
Pups. And the pups.
Well, and it's funny because later on the owl calls them a flock.
Oh,
So
that's true.
it's kind of
Yeah.
neat. The kids gather around the dormant 33. Neil wondering if he's dead. KB assures him he's just off and switches him back on. The rat, what? The rat crest scanner? I don't even know what that is. The rat scampers out of his eye socket home as 33's servos whir, and he sits up, exclaiming, "Intruder on board!" The kids try to allay his concerns. "He saved us. And you. He's a Jedi," Wim says. 33 looks over at Jode's name is misspelled so many different ways, so many different times in my notes. It's crazy. 33 looks Jode over, who's mulling about something in the foreground. A Jedi. The kids inform the droid of the plan to see Jode's friend, who can help them find At-Atten. 33 can't remember no At-Atten, but the kids know that, as he said that as much before. Jode joins the group holding a small bowl. He stirs the contents with a spoon, addressing them, but more concerned with the food, really. "So, At-Atten." He slowly, methodically spoons a green food into his mouth, carefully cleaning it out and savoring every bit as the kids look on, practically drooling. Neil's belly audibly growls. Finishing off the dish, he holds it out to the droid, telling it, "Clean it up," before placing the dish on the table beside him. Matter of fact, Jode tells the kids, "There's more in the pot." And they all yell, "Mine, mine," and clamor around to get their share. But there's plenty for them all.
Like a flock of seagulls.
Like a
Mine,
flock.
mine.
33 looks down at the dish Jode left and indignantly shoves it off the table to the deck with the back of his hand. Now, with a moment to himself, Jode explores the ship, looking through items. He holds up an old worn trench coat before tossing it back on the floor. Noticing a pair of boots from the same pile, he holds up one to his foot to check the size before also tossing it aside. He takes notice of the skeleton pinned to the bulkhead with a large gilded blade, and he locks eyes with it, at least where its eyes once were. Folding his arms, he visually inspects the blade, tracing his finger across the butt of the hilt before deciding to grab it and pulling it out, the former crewman's bones slumping to the deck with all the clattering of a bamboo wind chime. Looking the blade over before sheathing it in his belt, 33 appears behind him from around a corner. Looking for something, Jedi? Jode tells him, found something. And gesturing to the pile of bones at their feet mentions, you might want to clean up around here. But 33 wants to know who he thinks he's giving orders. Stepping forward and looking the man in the eyes, still hunched over position. But Jode isn't shook and steps forward to meet the droid's attempt at intimidation, prompting 33 to rise to his full height, whirling and clicking. Laughing nervously, Jode pats him on the shoulder like an old buddy. He's got questions for the droid, too. What's this ship? Are these kids really from Atten? And the droid begins to poke Joe in the chest. I'll tell you what I know, and mark my words, for I won't be repeating them. They're definitely from somewhere. Aye. And then as the man rubs his chest, the droid turns and retreats back around the corner from whence he came, only to return a few beats later, peering around the corner to repeat, aye. And that is my second favorite Star Wars era comedy bit, next to In A New Hope when Han says, tell it to the committee, and Leia yells, I am not a committee. That is my favorite one of all time. This is a close second, just that coming around the corner. Aye. I don't know. I was all alone laughing my guts out to that.
Yeah. I'll be keeping my
eye on you. At the table, the kids gather around with their bowls of green gruel. Neil cradles 33's rat in his hand, feeding it from his spoon, no longer freaked out by it. They discuss the possibility if there's really treasure back home. Wim is highly skeptical. Maybe Neil postulates the treasure has to do with the great work. He proceeds to ask the rest of the kids in turn what their parents do. Fern's mom is admin. KB says her parents are analysts. Neil's parents too. We already know what Wim's dad does, but Wim questions, so what? But Neil is still digging. What do they analyze? Something boring, Wim returns and begins fidgeting idly with his shiny lunch money credits. Something about money, it occurs to him. Just then, Jode enters through a sliding door. Quickly, Wim flips over his bowl in the small pile of credits. Neil, following suit for no good reason, he just flips his bowl over too. It's so good. Looking incredibly suspicious, the kids yell, Jode, the food was good. And he tells them it's time to go to sleep. Fern protests just like a kid. But I'm not even tired. Snap cut to a close-up of Fern snoring contently. Another genuinely funny moment. Jode looks around at the children. Wim and Neil sleep beside one another on twine hammocks, a gentle trumpeting sound emitting from Neil's trunk as he breathes. So I love it, man, so much.
I love the twine hammocks, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So pirate ship.
Everything about
absolutely,
this
yeah.
show is like been top notch so far, I swear. Turning to look, the Jedi finds KB head resting on an upright arm, staring him intently through her visor. He asks her wryly, you do sleep, don't you? Raising her visor, KB sits straight up in bed, telling him, it's unlikely you're telling the truth about being a Jedi. He admits he knows she doesn't trust him, but she's very bright, says, I calculated the odds. Now, with a soft voice, he tells her, not everything in the galaxy can be calculated. Sometimes you have to trust your gut. And reaching out with the Force, he switches the light out, telling her they'll reach his friend's moon in a few hours, suggesting she get some sleep. It's nice to see hyperspace travel take time again, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that
We
a
don't
lot.
travel by the speed of map in this show.
It's awesome. We can take our time to cook a little. Jode heads back to the cockpit, leaving KB awake in the dark to contemplate his advice. I've been avoiding naming the ship, even though we know the name from the Lego release. It hasn't been given a name in the show, so I will honor that. The ship snaps into view from
The
hyperspace
ship, yep.
against a dark backdrop of stars, cutting past a gas giant with swirling clouds of light and purples and blues. The ship vectors for a small moon orbiting, bathed in a shadow from its mother world. The system sun lays a crescent of gleaming white on its edge. Now low over the crater's surface, the ship speeds along, the gas giant ever looming over the horizon. I can't quite put my finger on it, whether it's the color palette or what, but I find this aesthetic very visually appealing. But wait, it gets better. A theremin begins to play as the ship approaches. A golden dome structure in what looks like a receiver tower begins to spin and track them. As Jode angles the thrusters and heads for a landing spot, away from the main structure amid a group of craters. We see KB's eyes as the daytime lights come on. We see KB's eyes as the daytime lights come on, and she snaps them open, narrowing in heavy suspicion. KB descends the boarding ramp to join the others. Wim rides a mechanical cargo lifter behind her, exclaiming to Jode, "What? We're playing." KB joins Fern, remarking that the moon is cold. Jode, wrapping himself in his cloak, tells her, "You'll warm up when you start walking." They pass a beautiful visual as silhouettes against the backdrop of the bright gas giant, and I'm heavily reminded of the scene in E.T. where E.T. and Elliot are flying in front of the moon. The kids want to know why he parks so far away from the destination. Jode quips that they need exercise, but Fern is too clever. He's hiding the ship. Listen, he tells them with a little more Han Solo. This friend of mine, we go way back. I don't trust her. Reminding us of Han's description of Lando to Leia on their approach to Cloud City at Bespin. Not 100%. In that she might stab us in the back. Neil is worried. Stab us? Joe tries to explain it's not literal, but you'll understand when you're older. Closer now, we see the complex, and that is their destination. Several small golden domes around a large central one. It feels very much like a 1950s sci-fi observatory.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really got that kind of aesthetic.
This whole sequence reminded me. I said this in our group chat about the, and we went there twice. Once in the Bad Batch, and twice in the Bad Batch, once in Clone Wars. That moon of Ryloth.
That's right.
Like, was it not a clone outpost during the war?
It might have been, yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, I don't know if it is or isn't, but like, I wouldn't rule out, did we just go to the same moon?
And it made atmosphere, right?
Well, it wasn't until sort of afterwards, towards the end of the episode, when we are introduced to the next character, I'm like, it does kind of look like a New Republic uniform.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which does sort of lend itself to, if that was a clone outpost during the war, that it's still occupied by the military or used by the military. I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. Cut to a diminutive clawed hand moving across a control panel. A female voice asks, "Can you read me?" Another female on the other end acknowledges. We pan past a few view screens, images of the group approaching. The voice belonging to the hand at the console tells the other end, "It's him, all right. He's got a flock of children." Speculating that the children are kidnapped, the woman on the other end says she'll dispatch a patrol to make their arrest. And the female at the radio informs the authorities she'll stall for time as long as she can. Outside, the group approaches a large metal door, and Jode gives 3 loud knocks, which echo in the darkness. A port above the door opens, and a familiar model TT-8L Y7 droid pops out, its red eye looking over the visitors. These gatekeeper droids were the iStock droids, were installed in doorways or entryways to screen for visitors. They earned the nickname Tattletale droids from their obnoxious demeanor in the pursuit of fulfilling their programming. Manufactured by Serbo Droid Incorporated, they were used across the galaxy for years during the Clone Wars. One was installed at Rishi Station Outpost, and most famously, the annoying TT-8L that was kept at Jabba's palace. So instead of the "what you are thinking,"
yeah,
the female voice from earlier asks, "Now who could that be knocking at my door?" And it's like
Star Wars ring camera,
but it's like storybook though. Who could, like Evermore? It's like a poem, it's very I don't know, story time, the way she says that. Jode responds, "Hello, Kim. It's me." Unsurprised, the voice returns, "Crimson Jack. You're looking well." A second TT droid pops out, and a third. Wynn blurts out, "Crimson Jack? Who's that?" But Jode/Jack hushes the boy with a dismissive wave of his hand.
Silvo.
Yeah, right. The female continues, asking him if the children he brought are all his. He begins to try to smooth talk the disembodied voice, admitting that he knows he left things in a mess between them, but that he's been afraid to show his face again, but at least not until he's brought her something really special. She wonders aloud, in that case, how can I refuse such a dear old trusted friend? And with that, the droids retreat back into their housing, and the door moans open with an off-gassing of atmosphere, and the theremin plays mysterious music over top. Inside, the chamber is sparsely lit with all manner of clutter and contraptions abound. The still disconnected voice ushers them in. Right this way. Don't touch anything. Jode casually greets the denizen, maneuvering through stacks of data pads caked with years of dust. He jokes, "Place looks great. I see you've been cleaning up." She returns, "Yes, my collection. Trinkets and tokens from 1,000 different worlds." Fern, agog at her surroundings, can't believe. There's 1,000 worlds? There's more than that, my girl. A device spins, descending and twisting from the ceiling on a large set of metal gears, revealing a caped creature with wings and an electronic headset similar to KB's, perched atop a small platform. It's attached to the device. It's an owl-type alien, a species new to us and heretofore unnamed.
You know what I'm calling her? This whole scene actually reminds me of
Oh my.
Agra's observatory in the
Yes, I
Dark
was going to
Crystal.
say that.
I have a slide at a place.
That's
I have
okay.
a Captain Jack slide at a place. Let's unpack the character of Kim.
Oh, you've got it there too. Oh shit.
First of all, voiced by the amazing actress Aliyah Shawkat, who fans of Arrested Development will absolutely remember as the actress who played the rebellious and hilarious Maybe Funke.
Yep.
I just have to say that the idea of the wise old owl as a sage, source of reason, information, and wisdom dates back to ancient times. Regarded throughout history across many cultures as a creature both feared and venerated, associated with both witchcraft and medicine. In early Indian folklore, owls represented wisdom and helpfulness, including powers of prophecy. This theme continues throughout Aesop's fables and into Greek mythology. The Greek goddess Athena kept owls as her favorite bird, and it's often said that owls accompanied her armies into battle. Legend has it that the death of Julius Caesar, Augustus, and Agrippa were all foretold by owls. For me, the biggest correlation, though, is located in pop culture references. I feel like they're a little closer to our time, even though it's a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
A few of my favorites of these ones I feel being relevant, especially this one, are Archimedes from The Sword and the Stone. I haven't heard anybody say this yet, but even Kim is in the middle of Archimedes.
Yeah.
A more obscure one that you guys may or may not know is Wang Shi Tung. It's a large, wise sage owl who guides the young heroes at one point in the animated Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And stretching a little bit, I find correlation in the character of Agra in the Dark Crystal, mostly because of the intricate clockwork and mechanics surrounding her and her lair.
Yeah, it's like she's got like a whole like planetary model there.
Yeah,
like
she's like watching for planetary alignments and stuff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The whole observatory thing just makes sense. Also, Kim, we're all calling her an owl, but does anybody else think that there's like cat/otter in there?
A little bit of something.
Hybrid, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like it's not all bird, I don't think.
I'm gonna have to put my numbers are from here on in are screwed up.
No,
so
that's
I'm
okay. That's
bear
okay.
with
We'll
me.
work through it.
Yeah. So I don't know if I put the Crimson Jack. Like I don't know where my notes are on Crimson Jack, so I'm just wondering if I just bear with me, folks.
Yep. No, take your time, man.
Talk amongst yourselves. I may have neglected to put in Crimson Jack notes. So I'm just going to go back for a sec because they did name drop him already.
That's right.
And I'll do some stuff from memory.
That's okay.
Basically, Crimson Jack, who is not Jode. Jode is impersonating somebody. And therefore maybe impersonating both Silbo and Jode Nanawood.
Yeah, maybe they're all aliases. Yeah.
So this guy, Marvel comic creator by Howard Chaykin and Roy Thomas for the 77 Star Wars Marvel comic. He was basically a foil for Han Solo. He was like a pirate leader of a gang of pirates that was constantly trying to thwart Solo and stuff. But it's interesting because there's a book.
Well,
written.
thematically that tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Pirates.
think there was a book written. It might have been like Star's End or one of the early Han Solo novels,
Yeah, yeah.
the daily ones, where Han Solo pays off Jabba the Hutt, clearing the bounty off his head.
Yep.
But then when it became a plot point for Empire Strikes Back, they wrote in the comic to have this character of Captain Jack or Crimson Jack responsible for putting the bounty back
Back
on.
on.
So it is canon and it isn't canon.
Hmm.
What do
Either
you
way,
know,
they took it out in one non-canon thing and put it back in another non-canon thing, so it
Isn't
would
that
work for
something?
Empire.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's also he's made a jump to a canon character. He is a bounty hunter working for the First Order in the First Order and Resistance War, and that's just a
Oh.
modern image of him in the sequel trilogy era.
I mean, so either version of this character, like could Disney be or Lucasfilm be trying to transpose like some amalgam of this character onto Jode?
He's maybe wearing too many pants for this character. This guy walks around like Namor all the time.
He looks like
It's a little strange.
looks like a Kirby New God.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe it's a Princess Bride situation.
It could, yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The Dread Pirate Crimson Jack.
Do you wax? Oh, very good. Very good. Perhaps I killed a Jedi and took it from him.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let's see if we can get this to work now. I'm one behind. Jode immediately. I'm a couple words behind too. Jode immediately decides that they should get down to business, but Kim dismisses him. Quiet, Jack. And she flies right at him, such that he has to step aside to avoid getting a wingtip in the eye. Landing on a stack of data pads before the kids, she addresses them directly, her voice now soft and sing-songy. Children, what in the depths are you doing with him? Then quickly filling her in on the gist of the visit. They quickly fill her in on the gist of the visit. He saved them and now said that Kim could show them the way home. She admits proudly that she has maps of every star system in the galaxy and the hyperspace routes between them all, asking finally, "Where are you from, children?" But before Jode can offer an explanation, Neil bursts forth, "At Atten," asking if she's heard of it. Shocked, the owl alien repeats the name twice before squawking off, flying to a corner of her chamber. Jode assures her it's true, and as the gears and machines above them begin to turn, Kim returns with a large scroll in her talons, dropping it on the deck before them all, giving us the episode title again embedded in the show. Very interesting, as an astrogation problem. Wim asks if it's a map, but she tells him it isn't, and begins a little exposition, and all at once we get answers attached to more questions. It seems At-Atten has been purposely hidden from the rest of the galaxy. There is no map pointing there. This scroll depicts the jewels of the old republic, and hovering, she kicks the scroll open before gently touching down on the far side of the large scroll. She continues, planets of wonder kept hidden for their protection. The scroll itself depicts 8 worlds evenly distributed in a grid around a ninth. Concentric circles of Orbash, although worn and weathered, some upside down and some backwards, some maybe even gibberish.
Yeah.
At the bottom, if you will, a 10th sphere sits outside the circle of worlds, and 5 figures stand beneath, arms raised in different configurations, as if to worship it or the central figure with both arms outstretched. The edges are tattered and ripped, suggesting great antiquity. And I know that I didn't have time, and I asked you to take a crack at it.
I
And
did the best I could.
I know you did, and I didn't include that here, but I know that you made the old school college try for sure. And it does point to, like, it's trying to say something, not nothing, but it
The-
mostly speaks. I can summarize by saying that it speaks about the worlds, but not naming them, and it speaks about the people on those worlds, but
Yeah,
not naming
yeah.
them. Things like the worlds of the Republic, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
There's one of the words that I was able to pull out of that was settled. So like obviously we're talking about moving to one or more
Right.
of these worlds. So
I'll just
or
wait for Screen
from
Crush to
them.
screw it up, and we'll figure it
Yeah,
out next week.
with another your mom joke.
Right. The wise old owl continues, and I'm just calling her for now until they name her species. Long ago, they were all destroyed except for one, At-Atten. Now only remembered in children's stories, pirate shanties, and rumors believed by fools. And it's funny that she hits all the marks with respect to every character we've met so far,
Mm.
falls into one of those categories. She tells them, though, she's always believed. Fern demands that they need a map, but Jode realizes they do not, concluding the children are the map. Kim actually is getting what Jode is laying down, suggesting that they search her archive by astronomical feature, that even if they have to look all night, she'll find their planet. Flying over to a console, she plugs a blank yellow data card into a slot and it descends inside like an ATM card. The computer boots to life, the screen flickering on what looks like a digital dial surrounded by numbers and other parameters. Outside, the structure aligns with her inputs. She questions them about details, asking, "What makes your planet special in all the galaxy?" But Wim confesses there's nothing special. Home is boring. She inquires about nearby planets. KB offers that in school they learn about Coruscant and Alderaan. Turning to her at the mention of Alderaan, "Missed the war, did you?" Neil, instantly curious, asked, "What war?" She finds it fascinating, but doesn't illuminate on it. Neil muses aloud that part of the great work was that they're supposed to stay inside the barrier. Kim repeats the words back to herself. Great work. Barrier. Asking, what does the barrier look like? Neil describes it as being see-through. You could see it at night, though, cloudy like a swirl. Something clicks in her mind. Nebular gases. Speculating that could be the reason the planet has remained hidden. On her screen, hundreds, if not thousands, of words appear scrolling in the center of the circular dial. She's narrowed down the search to only 10,000 words, but Fern is impatient, thinking this is never going to work. But KB is ecstatic that they've just eliminated 99.99% of possibilities. Fern pulls her rucksack over her shoulder, looking very much like she's about to leave, when a symbol on its flap catches Kim's eye and she flutters over, landing on the pack to examine it. What's that symbol? Fern explains that it's her head of the class badge and that her mom makes her wear it. With bolstered enthusiasm, the owl returns to the computer. She's never seen Paul Marish numerals used in Proto-Republic artifacts. I have no idea what she's talking about, but I am all in.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the little bit of Orabesh at the top reads prefect.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Nice. Kim, which is another word for captain, right? Kim begins to cross-reference all the information she's been giving. Sensing her growing excitement, Jode leans in close. Is that it? Do you have it? She says yes, but then backpedals. Wrapped up in the hunt, she remembers she was supposed to be stalling him. Pulling the symbol apart into characters on her screen, we see several shapes, and I think this is the symbol that was on the wall mural from the beginning of the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Back at the house, you mean?
At the house, yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a combination of things.
Well, I wonder now that you, I wonder if that was part of that mural that was in the principal's office too. Like,
yeah,
you could barely see it.
To do the many murals of Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Slide 28 interlude. I did manage to get some Orabesh translated here, but it's mostly stuff Kim has already told us.
Yeah.
Unknown Paul Marish, unknown Old Republic emblem.
Yeah.
And we do get one tidbit, which is the Paul Marish numeral number 9. So maybe they're the 9th planet from their solar system.
It's the Atari symbol.
It is. What a good game this would
the
make.
Atari symbol.
Now, obviously, biding for time, Jode assures her that if he didn't know better, he'd say she was stalling, his voice dripping with contempt. She returns, Crimson Jack, you don't trust me. And with that, he lunges forward, turning up the volume on a communication device beside his old friend. A voice jumps to life on the unit. Observatory Moon, come in. This is Sector Patrol inbound to your position. She flies off, putting distance between herself and Jack as he draws his blaster. You wouldn't shoot me. Not in front of the children. The patrol pilot requests updates on the situation. Jack offers her the chance. Call them off. Now she pleads with the kids, telling them that he's a scoundrel. I called these X-Wings to help you. And my heart goes, oh, X-Wings. I'm like, yeah.
I really that. Just when she says these X-Wings are here, it's like that to me. Then that is a New Republic uniform.
100%. I tend to agree with that. Yeah.
Like right
Or
down to the
and
cape.
I mean, yeah,
When you look at that, and I'm gonna say one name and just stare at her for a second.
yeah,
Crix Maydeen.
yeah. I was
You
gonna
know,
say a
like
lot of it could be like New Republic adjacent, sort of the way that, and I'm gonna reference the Acolyte here, but
yeah, yeah.
the way that their sniffy dude is wearing
Oh, right.
civilian Jedi
Well,
clothes.
she's not wearing a rank,
No,
so
that's true. That's true.
it could be just like that. Like
She moves
here's
around very fast. I found most of the stills of her were hard to like get any like little symbols on her like there's a little brooch or something connecting her cape up,
her
but I couldn't
cape,
get an
yeah.
image of that. And she's wearing an ornate belt buckle. I couldn't get an image of that too. Flying about, Kim dodges several of Jack's shots as she swoops close, shoulder checking the scoundrel, sending him tumbling into a stack of data pads. Leaping on him, she tries to convince the children to flee before Jack manages to throw her across
Is
the
he
room.
trying to is he going lethal with her?
I
Maybe.
I don't know if it's lethal, but it's definitely trying to like. Well, maybe
You know what I mean? Like, and
he
the
might
kids
be.
don't seem to be too upset about it either.
Well, there is the he did. Wim does drop a line. What just happened?
Yeah.
What is going on? So it kind of makes sense that they're like way in over their heads. Leaping on him, she tries to convince the children to flee before Jack manages to throw her across the room, slamming into a larger stack of data pads where they topple, half burying her in dust and information. Just then, the yellow card from earlier pops from its housing, now clearly emblazoned with data. Oh, yeah, we were there. KB. That might be the fight scene. Okay, that was the fight scene. Everybody remember what I just said.
Sure.
KB exits the facility into the night as a pair of X-Wings swing into view in the distance. Searchlights illuminated, the New Republic patrol sweeps overhead. The group races across the rugged terrain toward the open landing gantry of the ship, and we're treated, at least I am, to another silhouette shot against the glass giant. The group races towards the KB halts the group at the foot of the ramp, adamant that they aren't going anywhere till she get the truth. I did miss a slide there. Because I'm just going to back up in my brain. There's a conversation between KB and Kim
And Kim about finding the truth.
finding out the truth, and she basically inverts Jode's line from earlier to her, saying, "Did he tell you to trust your gut? Trust your head, find the truth." So now she's sort of the child of two different parents, if you will. And also, if you ever need me, just call and I'll be there, which is a really cool contact. And I really do want to see more from this character. Actually,
I just love how we gloss over that though, like, because like she has no idea, like when those kids leave, if they're gonna stick with Jode or not.
right.
So presuming that they don't,
At
how
this
the hell do
point,
they contact her?
based on what she says at the very end of the episode, at this point, I think she thinks fully that they're about to be stopped by the New Republic and that they're not getting away. KB exits the facility into the night as a pair of X-Wings swing into view in the distance. Searchlights illuminating the New Republic patrol craft sweep overhead. The group races. Okay, we're there. Sorry. KB halts the group at the foot of the ramp, adamant that they're not going anywhere until they get the truth. Jode tells her the truth is they have no time for this. Wynn stops to help Neil, who is tumbled down the embankment to the ship. And I wonder if this is one of those happy accidents because of the clunky costume or on purpose. There's a scene in the first episode that I didn't mention where he's kicking the can and he misses it. And I'm wondering if the same thing and they just left it in there because it's awesome.
Just leave it.
Fern demands to know who he really is. Why did Kim call you Crimson Jack? He'll tell them the whole story on the ship, but KB two-hand shoves him in the chest. Fern, call 33 for backup. 33 appears at the top of the ramp. Oh, Fern calls 33 for backup, who appears at the top of the ramp asking, "Captain, Jedi giving you trouble?" Jode smirks to himself. They're in an impasse. They won't go without the truth about his identity, and he says he can't go anywhere without the coordinates. KB employs the loudspeaker feature she used earlier in the first episode, waving her arms, screaming loudly, "Hey, X-Wings!" fully understanding the sabacc they are playing.
Nice.
He stops her, grabbing her by the arm, dragging her back to the ship. "You want to know who I am? I'll tell you on the ship." but they still refused to board. They all demanded in sequence, the truth, the truth, the truth. Now yelling above them, finally losing his cool. The truth is that I'm just like you. Okay? I'm lost. I'm alone. Wim asks meekly, but you are a Jedi, right? Jode, regaining his composure, admits that I never actually said that. And he says, of course. So that's a little fibby poo there. Fern exclaims, I knew it. With that, the X-Wing's rapidly approaching. With the X-Wings rapidly approaching, he tries to strike a deal. I'll get you home. I'll do the right thing. Maybe collect a little reward. We can be partners. But KB echoes Fern from episode 2. Not a partnership. You work for us. And he hesitates one last time. 33 flips on a welding torch to help him make the suggestion a little more quickly. Out of time, out of options, Jode looks KB in the eyes. Deal.
I was impressed that they had the kids go toe to toe with him and like essentially muscle him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, does he need them anymore?
Well, he's got coordinates now.
I mean, he could have taken the ship and
Right.
I mean, he would still have to contend with 33.
I
That's
think
true.
I think it might have a lot to do with this next scene where he needs multiple people at multiple stations just to pull this off.
Yeah,
So it could
yeah,
be
yeah.
was that. On board, they rush to the cockpit, but 33 informs them that the life support system is half disassembled. Jode tells them, reassemble it because we're taking off. In a cloud of moon dust, the golden engines kick to life and our ship ascends, pivoting thrusters, sweeping back against the backdrop of our gas giant's very own Great Storm Eye. The pair of X-Wings bank and cut to intercept the fleeing ship. We see that these are clearly Incom T-65s. I'm not sure if I could pull a T-65 CA2 out of a lineup next to a good old-fashioned red pod.
No, yeah.
But they have blue trim paint, and most interesting of all, they have modified tips to their lower S-foil blasters. More on that in a minute. Cut back to the cockpit. Fern wonders, what do we do now? Jode says they get the hyperdrive ready. When a little banter suggests 33 take care of it, Jode advises, if you rely on a droid, they'll let you down every time. So he's got some droid stuff going on. Who hurt you, Jack?
Yeah.
Who hurt you?
I get like, and I know we've gone through this with Din Djarin already,
Right.
being a child of the Clone War, but
And the opposite with Kane and Jarrus being that way around clones.
Yeah.
Very much the same thing.
I feel like that lends me to, let's say he's a dabbler, that's fine, it doesn't matter, it's not exclusive to Republic worlds, but I get the impression that he may have been from a separatist world where the droids were meant to
Serve you.
protect them.
Or droid, clean this up.
Yeah.
Not afraid of a battle droid to flip it on.
No.
Right? Like, yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
Or maybe unknowing that it was a battle droid.
Oh, that's even, just straight ignorance. Absolutely, yeah. The X-Wings clearly able to outspeed, outmaneuver, and outgun their opponent buzz the kid's ship, each lobbing a volley of live warning shots across their bow. Neil exclaims, "The goons!" And I missed a part, but Jode essentially says, those goons are coming, and when they get here, you won't be able to get home. And so that reinforces that line, but it's just so funny. The goons! Peeling in close formation, the X-Wings take up firing position and attempt to contact them. Jode flips comms off before they can get so much as a Crimson Jack. Surmising that they need to be on the other side of the moon to jump clean, Jode tells Neil that once they see daylight, they're gone, before telling him to take the controls and evade the X-Wings' fire. Wim questions the decision, and Neil too admits, I can't fly a ship. Jode gives him a crash course. Just like this. Wiggle the controls a little, evade. Immediately, the ship dips erratically as Neil struggles to follow instructions. I love that. Just wiggle it like this. Jode selects both Fern and Wim to follow him, Fern screaming after him, I'm the captain. You work for us. KB fiddles with the controls of the hyperdrive computer. All the while, Fern and Wim argue over who should be flying the ship. Jode stops pressing a control in the wall. A gun turret seat descends from the ceiling to the deck. Get inside, he instructs Fern. Come on, Captain. And with another crash course, grab this, turn this, fire here, keep him back, let's go. Flipping on a switch, Fern ascends into position. Racing further down the hall, the scoundrel drops another chair turret, and with the biggest shit-eating grin, Wim clambers to the controls, and we follow him up into position in a transparent steel dome. And with the sheer joy on his face, he goes from awe to downright giddy in amazement. He begins whirling around in circles, firing essentially into the air. Vern, in her seat, bathed in red light, lets a Harrison Ford half smirk grow across her face, and she begins to fire at her pursuers. Wim, using the targeting computer to aim, rains down fire as the X-Wing use light, short maneuvers to try to evade.
This is that moment I was talking about, the childlike innocence with no comprehension of what he's doing.
Right.
Like, it's just, oh, I get to fire this thing. Awesome.
This is the best video game ever.
Yeah, with no, like, oh my God, I could actually kill this guy.
Yeah. There's no thought of consequence.
No.
But it's the bad guys.
To them, yeah, at this point, right?
Yeah.
Still just brilliant. Still just, I don't even know what I was trying to say there. Still just brilliant at the sheer, still just amazed at the sheer adventure. Wim continues to lay down fire until, unbelievably, he manages to clip an upper engine nacelle. His face turns to sheer disbelief. I got him. Fern insists it was her shot, but the X-Wings are done playing, and with a volley of ion shot from the modified lower guns, they tag the larger vessel instantly, sending the ship buffeting, Neil struggling to maintain the helm. Jode arrives to relieve Nell as KB reports that they've nearly reached the target. Diving low, hugging the surface of the moon by meters, Jode kicks up a large dust trail. Struggling to maintain telemetry and visuals, the X-Wings dive into the cloud in hot pursuit. Will and Firm still live in the turrets. Still fire live in the turrets. Suddenly, the hyperdrive computer signals the all clear to jump. Pulling hard up from the surface, the ship leaves behind a tail like an Earth rocket. Really stunning with the system star just cresting over the moon. These guys really cooked on these shots. KB looks for approval and slams the hyperdrive control forward, and we jump, leaving now the familiar poof of dust behind.
The pig pen.
Mm-hmm.
The pig pen.
I love the maneuver kicking up the dust, though.
Oh,
Like,
that's so good.
It's like the James Bond smoke screen with none of the gadgets, right?
You can have all the gadgets in the world, but you can't follow, like you got to use your eyes at close quarters.
You still got to see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The X-Wing swoop into land, the lead ship trailing smoke. The pilot opens the canopy, coughing as Kim lands on the fuselage to chastise the Ranger, smoke pouring from his cockpit. What are you doing? You let them get away. The pilot, identified in the credits as Commander Kent, played by Andy Power. He was in a horror movie where he played a clown named Kent, and I wonder if that's a reference to his name in this.
But
I'm not sort of familiar with any of his other body work.
No.
I was running out of time. Sorry, Mr. Power. He tells her it's too risky with the kids on board, asking if she has any idea where they're headed. Dramatically, Kim turns toward the stars, musing, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." The theremin begins to play us out. Cut to black.
Nice.
So good. Man.
It's a fantastic episode. I smiled the first two episodes. I grinned for this one, and now I'm salivating for the next one.
Right.
It's such a crazy ride just from the beginning to where we are now, though.
Yeah.
Like, to go from that pirate port across the galaxy again to this another moon.
I know that Jod and the kids are the focal point of the show, but I'm glad that we didn't completely ignore the parents and that the B plot, right?
Yeah.
And that, for me, like, I'm very much excited to know how that's going to play out. So I hope we do get these little check-ins each episode. Like, I would hate to go a full episode and not check in with the parents.
Right.
Even them, contacting the security droid is dropping more hints about
the situation
that planet is in.
We're going to get to that supervisor, and I'm fairly certain it's going to be a droid.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, like, I think people are going to be like,
maybe even a tactical droid.
No, that's not unheard of. I don't think that's impossible, but I think that is going to crush a lot of parental perspectives. They'll be like, what?
Yes.
I mean, we've been following a droid all these years?
The whole time. And then we're going to have maybe some kind of revolt that goes with that. I don't know. Maybe.
It's the beginning of the Skibbity War.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my.
Oh, dear. I don't know if I can handle
It's giving a lot of cap.
Wow, it's Sunday night. We're just a couple days away from episode 4.
Yep.
We don't have a title for that one yet, I
It's
don't think.
Not yet.
super nice not to have to wait. Like we used to do these on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We did, yeah.
So you used to have to wait.
Till Wednesday.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, and then it was a scramble to write it because oh my god, I've only got 2 days to get this thing done.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's much nicer, and I feel like the that in between time, like okay, we talk tonight, and then I'll get a day off, and then it's now.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
did
yeah.
you see it? Did you see it?
Yeah,
What'd
yeah,
you think
yeah.
it
That's
is?
right. Yeah. No, that one was like riding a bantha.
What,
It was
single file or?
just awesome. Just
Yeah, it
no
was. It's
stress.
fantastic.
No stress. Like
Like a
stress
bantha.
because I thought I was going to run out of time because I was doing 10,000 words. But like no stress in the doing of it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and that
Sometimes
happens
they're
to
a
me, though.
slog, right?
It happens to
Mm.
me every week. I'll fixate on the one thing that I think is really important, only to realize that no, this doesn't mean anything, and I've wasted too much time. But it's so easy to get drawn in and just want to like pull every little detail out.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
nothing is there by accident.
I included a lot, and I'm usually not this guy. I included a ton of dialogue this time
Yeah,
just because of how much exposition, how many comedy beats, how many genuine sort of emotive things were happening with the children. So I just felt compelled to include a lot of it the way it was written in the script.
The tapestry thing really frustrated me when you asked for help on that. Not because you asked for help, but because as I started staring at it and realizing that like they must have like, did they run out of time and like suddenly they were just slapping characters on it? Because you would get like lines like on the one portion of the, I guess it would be the part that she was standing on. There's two distinct sections because one is oriented one way and
Right.
then you get a few lines in and it's now oriented the other way.
Right.
But then I'm noticing within that there are letters that are like upside down and backwards. And I know we talked about that
I
before
wonder
where
if that is a result of the font and somebody holding down shift.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you hit a capital, it'll actually flip the
flip it
character,
over.
right?
That's
We
funny.
talked about like about Aurebesh in Star Wars and that like, you know, it has been canonized that Aurebesh can be written
Both
upside
ways.
down and
Because
backwards.
it's viewable from multiple.
Right, because if you're writing it on a transparency, like on a screen,
Then it can
you
be
might
from
be
both
reading it
sides.
from both sides. Yeah, exactly.
How do we click on welcome discussion and make us all pretty here? Is that how
Oh,
it-
sure, let's
Yeah,
do
there it
that
is.
one. Yeah, there we go.
For me, what happened was as I was screenshotting the episode, I saw that and I went, okay, I need to figure that out. And I started translating it. And after about an hour and 3 words, I was like, I haven't written a word of the narrative yet.
Yeah.
Decided I should get started on the
I
real stuff.
do want to learn more about the 9 jewels of the Old Republic, though.
I like the stuff that they dropped is so like genuine and like I literally want to know about like, and I know I keep punching down on the accolade and I shouldn't, but like that's how you do a mystery. Like if you
Yeah.
guys you're telling me that you're writing the biggest mystery in Star Wars and then you serve me up a plate of dog poop, but this is how you do a mystery. This is actually compelling stuff, and we're playing a kid's game of Clue, and that's like it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. This is just a great time.
I agree.
Mhm.
What takes it? And she said they were all destroyed, but one.
But one.
And so, like, what destroyed? And of course, my mind automatically goes to, well, 8 of the 9 were destroyed in some event, and then I'm drawn back into that thing around the Great Works about the hyperspace incident.
Right.
Did it take out? Did it take out planets?
It took out systems.
Maybe.
It took out systems.
Is this a result of what happened?
Could
These
I mean,
planets.
that's a good like so that's about 200 years before Phantom Menace that event.
Yeah.
But like they seem to be indicating that they might be going further back. There's just I love that when they give us an answer, they embed a question in it.
Yeah.
KB's thing
absolutely.
is medical, but what is it specifically? Like
Yeah, because initially I thought, oh, it's part of her augment, and they just happen to have, they're just able to track her because of that.
Mhm.
No, there's definitely something going on,
yeah.
but what is
Be
it?
like Mikey and his inhaler, where suddenly he's cured of asthma because of magic.
Doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Don't do that in real life, kids.
I do wonder if the 10th planet on the scroll was Coruscant.
Yeah.
Coruscant.
Like, here's your
Yeah.
core world, your center of the whole High Republic,
Yeah.
and here's our 9 jewel worlds.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
so we've switched core worlds a few times. I couldn't name them all off in succession, but we've definitely switched core worlds a few times in Star Wars. Like
Mhm.
circa now, we're transitioning away from Coruscant to Chandrilla, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's like what's happening in the background right now.
I saw an interesting thing. Was it today or yesterday? And I had forgotten about it. Going back to it, you guys remember when Zeb showed up in The Mandalorian?
Mhm.
Mm.
Do you remember the conversation he was having at the bar with Carson?
I can't say I do.
Refresh me.
He was talking about pirate attacks in the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course,
Nice.
I just thought it was a setup for or to link to the Gorian Shard thing, which now we know was a connection to this show. So I wonder if our Rangers, if our guys from Adelphi base are going to be our connective tissue to the bigger
Hmm.
interconnected.
I mean, we're halfway and we haven't really gotten our
No, we haven't. Yeah.
sort of main villain. Well, I guess if Brutus counts, but
Yeah.
I think there's like a
Yeah.
bigger fish to fry. Maybe
There's
Vane.
always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Vane, possibly. Maybe there's a. I mean, we've already had one mutiny in the first episode. Maybe we get another
Yeah,
one, and
right.
Brutus gets his comeuppance. I don't know.
Just so many questions that I genuinely want to know the answers to, and not just like some like forced like I
And
don't know,
somehow he
like some
returned.
strange MacGuffin. Yeah, right, right.
It's oh dear. Somehow Chimera returned. Nobody has any idea what we're talking about right now.
Hold him under. Hold him under. Mhm.
Like a hot spring.
Shut up before you put it up, and put on a shirt, at least a button up.
Well, just a couple more days to go until we get episode 4, and like I said, I'm quite salivating for this one. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be 10 years old again.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
a great time.
I just feel good about this one, and I think that that's sort of been the predominant thing for me. It's like, oh, this Star Wars is fun, and it's supposed to be fun, and this is fun. Yeah, more, and don't get me wrong, I love all the ultra serious stuff. I mean, fans of our show, how many times have you and I, Hank, have said,
Oh yeah.
political drama? Who wants to
Oh, yeah.
watch an entire show in the Senate?
We're going to be going dark and deep for Andor, and we're
That's
going to love
right.
every second of it. But this is a really refreshing breath.
Yeah, and so now I have a question: is the show target audience that age demographic, or is it still us?
I think
No,
both.
I think it's us. It's those of us that have kids that are willing to sit beside us and watch it.
Mm.
Quite honestly, I think that's the both of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have a metric for knowing if kids that I don't know are sitting there watching it.
yeah.
I'd like to think that that's awesome, but I also know a few kids, not many, but I know that if you can't play it, they're not interested.
Gotcha. Hey, would you like a dose of this week's fandom menace?
Sure.
I saw one today that said, George Lucas gave us a world or a galaxy that was, a colorful tapestry of originality, and then not the acolyte. Wow, Skeleton Crew gives us an elephant and an owl, and then the final comment was they are creatively dead inside. And my first thought was George Lucas also gave us a Wolfman, the devil, and several other off the rack costumes. What more do you want?
And a guy holding an ice cream maker.
That's right. Yeah,
Some people need their art spoon fed to them.
he also gave us pigs and teddy bears,
Mhm.
right? And nobody really complained about that. Well, maybe they complained a little bit about the teddy bears, but
Giant worms and fuzzy goats.
my point being that people are just mad for the sake of being mad.
Yeah, and you don't have. I'll debate you to the ends of the earth. Like those people out there, this time, you don't have a leg to stand on. You can't possibly know what you're talking about if you're not entertained by this. Other than that, you want to not be entertained by this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big fan of like what you like, don't like what you don't like, and obviously don't burn everything else down around you
Right.
because of that. But objectively speaking,
Give it a chance.
this show is doing well both critically and uh, uh, um, commercially. So um, most people seem to like it, and I
Yeah.
think we are in that category as well.
I also saw a really weird one that apparently some folks are thinking we now have a new slur for robots.
And that is,
Obviously not new, but clankers.
Oh, clankers.
oh boy,
I was like, really?
Clanka.
Clanka.
Didn't watch the Clone Wars there, did you?
Where have you been
Oh my.
since
Missed the
2008?
war, did you?
Missed the war, did you? That's awesome.
That's funny. You
That
did
is
ask a
funny.
question though. You said which one? You did ask
I
which
did.
one.
I'm pretty sure. No, because she's.
But as soon as it's
referencing
reference to
Alderaan.
Alderaan, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Well, anybody else got anything they want to mention on this one before we sign off for the evening?
I have talked my brains out on this episode.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the lead on this one. Always nice to hear a different perspective, and I think that's what makes us an interesting show. That we all have a different voice and we all bring something different to it. So, very happy with how that went, and I look forward to doing more. I like being in the right seat sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week, obviously, with our next episode. Andy and I will be here on Tuesday night for this week's edition of Random Fandom. That's always a fun one. Tune in for that one if you like pop culture and entertainment news. That is our little magazine show that we like to do. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
That is us.
Oh, wait.
Oh, what?
Oh.
We had an anniversary this week.
Oh
We
my.
did.
We had an anniversary this week.
It
We
did
had,
pop up in the memories.
yeah, we had the 4th anniversary of our merch shop.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
Our merch shop has been live for 4 years now, and it is what? Andy, you said today we are at what?
I said 140, but now we're actually at 141.
141 designs there.
Nice.
And that's despite the couple of DMCA takedown
Mhm.
notices that
Nice,
we've had. So there's
Apparently
lots
we
there.
parodied too close a couple times.
Yeah, you can't go that close.
$9 in 4 years is decent money.
Yes. As always, thanks to our patrons, Greg and Eric. Thank you guys. Couldn't do this without you. That being said, if you want to support the show, those are two great ways you can do it. You can pick yourself up a t-shirt or a mug or any of the other items that TeePublic will print our logos on.
All currently on sale.
You may sign up for our Patreon. We have one level of patronage there just to say thank you. That keeps us going, helps us pay for things like our streaming platform to keep the show rolling, and pays for hardware upgrades as they are required. So consider doing that. And of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
It is free. All right. I got nothing else.
That was wicked.
All right, guys. Listen, I hope you had a great time as much as we did bringing this to you. As always, whatever your thing is out there, remember, fan on. And for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
We will see you on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.